I have an English accent, but I was born amongst them so I could witness how they use science on their own people, and now they are using it on my people, the people of Ireland, and the people of Europe. I'm not perfect, I make no claims to be. How can anyone be perfect born into an imperfect world? A world where the people we elect to protect us lie, cheat, and allow us to be poisoned to protect their career or to feed their selfish, rancid greed. I will not judge the ordinary man, but I will judge our leaders. They were given the privilege to guide us, but they now look down on us all. Selfish, rancid greed buys another human being's silence while they sit and watch their fellow citizens suffer immeasurable pain and eventually die, all in their little game of secrets. This greed is being spread across our globe like a cancer by secret societies that have infiltrated all European governments with the assistance and the might of the American government.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy.
The traditions and values of many nations were once to uphold the truth and to protect and preserve life. It is written into every constitution. Doctors swear the Hippocratic oath. One is of beneficence, to do well or avoid evil, and non-maleficence, do no harm towards patients. Another is to put your patient first ahead of the National Health Service, trust, and even society. This means life is to be valued more than the economy. Science feeds us foods and drinks that leads to all disease. This disease starts deep within our cells, the microscopic life deep within us all. When the cell is diseased, they give so-called therapy that destroys the diseased cell and the good cells around it. They say this is the only way to save the life, But the obvious way is to stop making the foods that cause the disease in the first place. Another way to save life is to tell the truth. This was a message that was taught to the world over 2,000 years ago. When our leaders only worship money, then all respect for life goes out the window, because when making money is your aim, then nothing else matters. Money has never saved a life, ever, all throughout history. One thing always has: the truth.
My name is Sergeant Rick Schiff. I'm an 11-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department. I hold the department's highest Medal of Honor for bravery. That used to mean a lot more to me than it does now. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my now 7-year-old daughter. This is an identical twin. Her sister is now dead. Her sister, when she was 4 years old, Kristen, developed a highly malignant brain tumor that had spread throughout her spine and her brain. The doctors told us that we had really two options: take her home, let her die, or bring her in for massive dosages of chemo and radiation simultaneously. In either event, she was going to die. They were quite certain of that, and very quickly. Believing her only chance to be the standard route, we gave her the chemo and radiation. It burned her skull so bad she had second-degree burns and her hair never came back. To change her diapers, we had to wear rubber gloves because her urine was so toxic and it burned her. At the end of 6 months, miraculously, she survived the standard treatment, although there was a high expectation she wouldn't. She still had cancer. We were told, sorry, we've done everything we can. Now she's going to die, probably within a couple of months. My wife and I, choosing not to accept that, started reading. The first book I picked up, the third chapter, discussed Dr. Brzezinski. As you may guess, I have some expertise in fraud. In fact, I'm quite certain there are enough attorneys in the room that I could be vordeered as an expert in fraud. And I conducted my own investigation. I have no doubt the man is not a fraud. I have no doubt that he does what he does out of earnest belief that his medicine works. And now you're in a position to judge for yourselves whether it works or not. But it's well established by the FDA that it's non-toxic. 18 months later, we took my daughter off the anti-neoplastin. She had not died. She had no signs of tumor. She remained free for 18 months of cancer. Within a month, the cancer was widespread in her brain. We put her back on Brzezinski's. By the way, at the objections of our doctors, for some reason felt that it had failed her. We put her back on. Within 9 weeks, the tumor was completely gone. She died last July of neurological necrosis. Her brain fell apart from the radiation. The autopsy showed that she was completely cancer-free. Out of 52 cases of that disease ever, no one died cancer-free, just Chrissy. So she didn't die of a terminal illness. She died of my inability to care for her properly, and she died from bad advice. She died because there's a government institution that disseminates false information and is not looking out for the welfare of the people. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another, to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
One group of people in all our societies believe that truth or lies are just opinions. They believe that this exonerates or frees them from their moral obligation to do right for the good of the people. Jesus came into our world to uphold and protect the truth, because the truth protects and preserves life. But this group of people do not even mention his name, and they see your life as a game. We elect these people to protect, to guide, and to ensure the health of our nations, and to protect our right to a healthy, happy life by seeking the advice to protect and preserve our lives, not the best advice to further their careers or increase their salary or protect their business associates. Recent history shows that the American truth is detrimental to all life around them. They are like a cancer inside the body that is now spreading across our globe. An American multi-billionaire has been exposed as the driving force funding the campaign to legalise the killing of the unborn child in Ireland and in over 100 other nations. His organisation is called Open Society and is now coordinating a massive anti-life movement. They head Amnesty International Ireland, the Irish Family Planning Association, and the Abortion Rights Campaign. This book teaches, amongst many things, why we were warned not to eat the apple and the bread. It teaches that white flour, the leaven Jesus warned us of, and white sugar, originally in the apple, caused the ruination of the Western world. He discovered before these foods the Aborigines were healthy, happy, and extremely fit, and all children were healthy, happy, bouncy babies. They carried out strict procedures around childbirth. The young man and woman were assigned elders to keep them apart for 6 months before conceiving the child. This was while they were purifying their bodies by eating mainly vegetables. Then when the woman got pregnant, she carried on eating pure foods of nature, for another 27 months. This was 9 months while carrying the child, and then for another 18 months while breastfeeding. Dr. Price said they always had healthy, happy, bouncy babies every time, no sickness, no disabilities. Then these people ate the foods of the British Empire, and after these foods, children were being born psychologically impaired and with severe skeletal structural deformity. Why are we witnessing what Dr. Weston Price and countless others witnessed once again all over Europe? It is because of silence and because people are too scared to cause controversy, to speak out against science. When did it ever become controversial to seek the truth, speak the truth, or to find another way? Who gave this organisation the sole right to watch over our lives? Or should I ask, what price can another life be bought? Sadly, many of us pay with our own life, and because of Darwin, many people see life as a competition, a game, and that sickness is our own fault, or our parents' fault. All the recent headlines prove that the knowledge of science is useless, or they do know and they are pretending because all they care about is money and the economy. Sugar makes alcohol, and this is one of many reasons for birth defects. It's known as alcohol syndrome effects. So when the body is flooded with sugar, a similar effect will occur. Knowing this, why are the foods flooded with sugar? It is an accepted medical reality that if you have diabetes, you run up to 10 times the risk of having a child with birth defects, including major face anomalies like cleft palate. Sugar is the main cause of diabetes, and many people that have diabetes do not know they have it. This means that now having a healthy, happy baby has become a gamble. Every time science comes under the spotlight, they make excuses. When asked about their knowledge of sugar, a headline in the British press said they were relying on data from the 50s. Britain brought science to the Western world. Why not go back further to Dr. Weston Price, or even further, all the way back to Hippocrates, a name they use, and his oath they also use? He was called a healer, something science doesn't know how to do, but they do know how to make a lot of money. The pharmaceutical industry of America makes $3.5 trillion every year, and we are now witnessing what some of their billionaires are doing with their money, spreading more death. Uncontrolled diabetes, high blood sugar levels have been shown to have a profound effect on embryogenesis, the beginning or first stage of anything, organogenesis, the development of organs in animals and plants, and fetal and neonatal growth. Science once gave the impression that drinking a little alcohol while pregnant or smoking does no harm. One side of science denies that toxins can enter the baby's brain while in the womb. The pictures at the top are of the baby covering its face after breathing in smoke from its mother's cigarette, and the three on the bottom are the baby content. That is why it's sucking its hand. This shows that whatever the mother breathes in, the child breathes in also. Therefore, this will prove that what many brilliant scientists are fighting to prove about sugar and other toxins, they can and do enter the baby while in the womb. Sugar is the oldest toxin on earth, and it was in the apple, and the apple contained a parasite, fungus, yeast. Yeast is a prion and can enter the brain, and the Zika virus proves that parasites, fungus or bacteria can travel from the mother to the child. The evidence of smoking proves that toxins can also enter the child while in the womb. So why does one side of science spend hundreds of millions every year denying the truth and promoting and sponsoring death? It took 60 years to prove that smoking causes cancer. 60 years in and out of court. That must have cost millions, hundreds of millions to prove that it caused cancer. Dr. Yudkin discovered that sugar interfered with the body's use of protein, so that the rats lost protein instead of accumulating it as they should when growing. He found that a diet low in protein may be even more deficient when it's accompanied by sugar. He also found that the usefulness of a given amount of protein and its value in promoting growth is diminished when sugar is present in the diet. Caffeine is being promoted everywhere, and people see this as an innocent drink, a pick-me-up, but you wouldn't need picking up if you took sugar out of your diet, because sugar depletes energy and not creates it, as they trick you. Sugar forces energy out of the cell, and caffeine can affect the normal brain function, and the wit to survive may become less sharp. Caffeine is known as a pick-me-up because that is all it does, but it will drop you back down further than before. It wastes the brain's energy quickly. This will be detrimental to a growing child. Caffeine intake on a regular basis by pregnant women can increase the risk of low birth weight infants. It can even cause spontaneous abortion or damage fetus. Caffeine can damage DNA and cause abnormal DNA by inhibiting the DNA repair mechanism. Caffeine has been shown to cause genetic defects in plants and animals. All this information will prove that a so-called harmful pick-me-up like coffee or a can of cola with 16 spoonfuls of sugar and laced with caffeine can be detrimental, if not fatal, to the unborn child. The evidence shows they made severe mistakes with sugar, but what people fail to see is that we have been warned about this food additive all the way back to the apple. It contains the equivalent of 5 spoonfuls of sugar. Their little game has gone on all the way back to the apple. This is a sick, sinister, demonic game they are playing with our lives. These people should no longer have the privilege to guide and look after us. Science must be brought into question. I do not mean to alarm any parent, but to alert you that you must now follow the example of the Aborigines and be careful of what you put in your body while pregnant. These people do not respect life. You must look after it yourself. How is it we only hear one side of the story? Doesn't anyone remember the story of a very brave, courageous individual that lost his life speaking out against their science to warn us? Do you still fail to see the significance of his throwing their money tables in the air? Do you still fail to see the warnings from all the brilliant scientists that seek the truth, and people like President Kennedy that also warned us of these people? We rely on our leaders to get us the best advice and not to be bought by the pharmaceutical companies to suppress information. If women were given this information, many of them would not have to suffer the heart-wrenching decision of having to terminate a life or to have a child that's sick and diseased all the way throughout their life. In a righteous society, all wrongful, harmful elements would be removed. We have never had a righteous society because the rule of law has allowed one group of people to bring sickness and disease, deformity and death to the West and profit from it, and then create laws that allow people to kill themselves or the unborn child. The rancid greed of all your useless, good-for-nothing, money-worshipping lowlifes has allowed science to blind you from the truth and stifle debate, as Kennedy warned. People of Ireland, who are your current government? They allowed sugar to stay in your foods and never called for a check on any of the man-made scientific additives, preservatives and taste enhancers, but they did increase their wages by €5,000. We didn't elect our leaders to enforce laws upon us, to completely change our way of life. Changing a law denies every parent their God-given right to access to the truth, and in a free and open society, this debate should not be one-sided or bought. Nor should it be silenced by an industry that alleges to help us, the pharmaceutical industry. A right and just society can only be achieved when right and just people are the leaders. Who or what are this current Irish government? And all European governments are the same. Jesus once warned us they would traverse land and sea to make one a proselyte like them. There are now groups of people in all societies that are using everything in their power, their wealth, and especially the rule of law, to change every society across our globe. This group go under the banner of an open society, but they are controlled by secret society members, and using the law they destroy life with their foods and then with their medication. When the patient is too far gone and suffering immeasurable pain, they are now offering them the right to end their own life instead of their God-given right, access to the truth. How the world has been blinded and fooled by science beggars belief. These people have used the banner of a so-called right and just system, the rule of law, to create death and to be protected while causing it. Science is controlled by a secret society, and they are called secret because they have kept many secrets from you, and they also control religion. The story in the Bible warned us not to eat the apple and the bread, and Dr. Weston Price's research proved why. He witnessed disease after eating the foods of the British Empire and their science. And this is what Jesus witnessed all those years ago. You all once had this ability. It's called common sense. Eat shit, get sick, you avoid it. But you have been fooled by these people that feed you shit that they can help you with their medicines. They also fool you with words like treats when it comes to chocolate, but you must now see how detrimental this will be for a growing child in the womb. They deny that toxins enter the womb, but the Zika virus proves otherwise, and the picture of the baby in the womb proves they are lying. The first virus the world faced was yeast from the apple, and then in the bread, the two food warnings millennia ago. Their little game of experiment on you has gone on too long. Yeast is a prion, and prions are the brain's protectors and feeders. They carry food for your brain. Yeast carries all the toxins, and that is why babies are born with shrunken skulls. This is because disease has always entered the world within you all via the mouth. That is why your meat is now rancidly infested with bacteria, and theirs are all free of bacteria. And the secret organizations warn their followers to avoid yeast. And one group of people, the people that keep alleging Jesus was one of them, avoid yeast religiously. Sugar feeds yeast, a fungus that destroys life within you all. Your ancients knew this. Saccharomyces cerevisiae means sugar mold, sugar fungus. Fungus grows on all sugars, no matter what they call them, carbohydrates, starches. It grows on all sugars. That's how they trick you with words, sayings and slogans. When you get a disease, they give you a name for it, and people are happy with that, and then they go, leave the doctors with the tablets. Ask the doctor what caused your disease, so at least you have a hand in stopping it the next time. All your governments are good for nothing, useless, lowlife, money-worshipping pawns of the devil. All your foods now contain all the elements from the apple. This means yeast is in everything, including vegetables, because of Monsanto, controlled by the CIA. The CIA are a secret police force that enforce the way of hell on the American society, and now Europe. In Britain, it is MI5, and MI6 is their international organisation. This is what President Kennedy was alluring to, and eventually they took his life, as their ancestors did to Jesus. The fact that fruit contains sugar must now make you see why you were warned of the apple, because the apple came from the mind of the devil, as the story tells, and it contains sugar, parabens and yeast. These elements are now in all foods, and all the diseases that Dr. Weston Price witnessed are now prevalent in all your societies. This is because Freemasonry is everywhere, including Ireland. Freemasons founded science, and this book proves what Kennedy was warning of. Also, that these people use diplomatic means. The British people will recognise one of those names, the leader of the Labour Party of Britain, and he kept using the Open Society slogan. And while in power, they changed the chemicals in the foods, added chemicals to the water, and changed all the medicines. They also changed all the laws and implemented the Human Rights Act, which eventually tricked people to accept gay marriage, and is soon to trick them to accept paedophilia. These headlines tell of the fact that the Labour Party sponsored and gave an organisation called PI affiliate status, protection from the law. PI stands for Paedophile Information Exchange, so there was no mistake when they awarded them £500,000 and protected them from the law. The articles also teach that 3 top-ranking MPs from the Labour Party worked for this organisation. They were lawyers, 2 of them women. One of them was the deputy chair leader of the party. The articles also talk of high-ranking judges caught up in a paedophile scandal that are friends with the Queen. This organisation wanted the age for consensual sex dropped to 4 years of age, and every time the Labour Party got into power, they were screaming for the age of consensual sex to be lowered. This will soon happen in Ireland. They are soon to implement a diversity law, a Freedom of Choice Act. There is no secret that people in our world do honour and worship the devil, as Stephen Knight unearthed, and some are tricked, and when you research shamanism, you discover that those who imbibed or breathed in hallucinogenic drugs were predominantly of a nervous disposition, or they had homosexual tendencies. Nervousness is caused by toxins in the blood, and hallucinogenic drugs are toxic. This is the body signaling you from within to warn you. Their most famous scientist, Einstein, and many others prove that we send and receive signals to and from our brain. These signals come from within and the world around you, and it is no secret that the American government use other realms. That is what Jesus came to teach the world of, the spirit world, and he also taught to keep the body pure, because your body is your mind. What people fail to understand is that the elements of the apple came from the mind of the devil. Therefore he controls all those elements, and also those that worship him. Science is now teaching that you and everything around you is made up of elements, but they only teach you this after they have been allowed to defile everything because of the rule of law. It was recently revealed that both sides of the British establishment held drug-fueled homosexual orgies, and the recent Iraq war was caused by lies fed by paranoia. They have used the law to cause a war, legalise gay marriage, and now they want paedophilia legalised, as all the evidence proves. People of Ireland, you need to ask some serious questions of your current government, especially this Taoiseach. He promoted a judge to the High Court, originally employed by the Labour Party, so they now have their people in high-up places, as President Kennedy was warning, and the book The Brotherhood, written by Stephen Knight, was also warning us of. He wants to set up a spy organisation, and the spies and lies of the CIA, a secret spy agency, caused the Iraq War, and their experiments have poisoned the Americans and now Europeans. He also wants to invite the Queen. Who or what is he? It seems he is one of them, as one of our own President Kennedy was warning us when he said they would use diplomatic means. The Queen's ancestors brought the apple to the West. It seems they have infiltrated every society, including Ireland, which has always been a free and open society with free and open people that is now ruled by the law. They are soon to implement secularism in Ireland. This is modern-day Kabbalism, devil worship, as my other documentaries prove. This was the religion that Jesus lost his life to speak out against. He never come to teach you a science or a religion, but a way, and that way was the way of truth. Once you accept anything in life, it becomes part of your life, and people have been tricked to accept sickness and disease as part of life, because they accept that there are no cures. They fail to understand all the warnings from the past that teach the real cause of all disease is in the foods. This information has always been suppressed by governments, especially governments that leave sugar in the foods and raise their salary, knowing that a tax is coming from Europe on sugar. This book on the Kabbalah, on the occult, the dark arts, tells of the hold that words of power and magical names have over millions of people to this day. Also, that arising in the world today are new political groupings which are emerging upon the world stage. These political groupings are creating such words and names which will in the years to come be charged with the magical power over the hearts and minds of men. During the Iraq War, the British were continually told that it was a battle to win hearts and minds. This party also used words, sayings and slogans on their people. They were also told it was a battle against terrorism, but people failed to see that it was this war that led to worldwide terror. And the British failed to see that it was their governments that caused all the troubles in Northern Ireland.
And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment.
Stephen Knight proved the Freemasons honoured and worshipped the devil. The book on the Kabbalah proves that even world leaders worship the devil. That is why Jesus said, "You are of your father the devil, and your will is to your father's desires." He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. It seems that some people only desire money and will do anything to get it, even lie and get 1 million innocent people killed. That is why a liar will always lie, and Britain was built by their royalty, descendants of the original children of hell, Adam and Eve in the Bible, Isis and Osiris in the spirit world, honoured and worshipped by Freemasons and science. And Stephen Knight discovered the Queen's husband is a high-ranking Freemason and an honorary member of the Brotherhood. Freemasons brought science to the West, and science continues to lie and cover up the real cause of all disease. People fail to see the warnings in the Bible, especially the British, that all royalty caused ancient wars and they also caused all disease. Their royalty brought the apple to the West, along with all their relations in all European governments, and the British establishment have always used psychology on their people, as the book on the Kabbalah teaches. They trick them. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, and a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Surely now they can see, with all the headlines on sugar, that this was a deliberate act to cause sickness and disease. They also ridiculed Jesus with the film The Life of Brian, and they used to call people that wanted to teach the British the truth Jesus freaks, and had sayings like Jesus sandals. When you want to follow anyone in life, you must think like them, and when you want to follow Jesus, you must also think like his Father. That is why he said, "Do not look up to no man on earth, and call no man your father, only the Father who is in heaven." Britain has always been controlled by Freemasons, and Freemasons have always controlled religion that tricked you to call priests father, and they have always controlled science that tricked you to look up to Darwin and Einstein and Freud, all from one group of people. Freemasons created science, and science created the media, and Freemasons control everything, and they now control the food production and distribution for nearly 90% of the world's people. They achieved this by first creating the illusion they were helping people by tricking nations other leaders were dictators and invading them. But all they did was spread disease like a cancer. That is why they created an illusion of terror.
For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
Jesus was a wise man, and he taught that in order to correct a mistake, people must first accept they are wrong. But instead of accepting they are wrong, these people use the law to change you instead of changing themselves. And that is why some people in society believe that they don't need to change no matter how wrong they are. These people now control all governments and all modes of education, science, religion and history. That is why George Orwell, author of the now famous book 1984, said, "He who controls the past controls the future, and he who controls the present controls the past." One group of people believe that by controlling all forms of education, especially history, including religious history, they can hide the truth from you. Freemasons are modern-day Pharisees.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
The whole world once had that belief, and that is why the religion and science brought to the world by one group of people have both kept secrets, because secrets deny you the truth. This book verified the claims made by President Kennedy when it was released in the 1980s. It exposed all the tactics used by Freemasons, a secret society to get to the top in all walks of life. They used bribery, corruption, blackmail, criminals, military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific and political operations, and the rule of law, as Kennedy warned. It has been alleged that Stephen Knight fabricated this whole book because he didn't divulge his sources. This book teaches that British and French lords or Freemasons planned the First World War 8 years before it started, and America backed them up. This was the greatest loss of life in conflict the world has ever seen, all because Britain took their people and the rest of the world to war in the First World War because of an obligation, Lord Lansdowne, a compact, Mr. Lloyd George, an honourable expectation, Sir Eyre Crowe. This has always happened throughout history, the elite using us to make money, even if it involves war and the greatest loss of life. This is what the Bible were teaching. royalty and your elite have always used you. After the war, and when this book surfaced, there was consternation across the globe. It sent shockwaves across the Atlantic. The American president, Woodrow Wilson, that was a supporter of the New World Order, quickly changed his tune. He said, "Is there any man, let me say, is there any child, who does not know that the seed of war in the modern world is industrial and commercial rivalry?" This was an industrial and commercial war. Not many British or American people know of this book, and they never got told the truth about any wars caused by their own governments and royalty that believed they could cover up and hide the truth. What they fail to understand is there are two things you can never change: the past and the truth. Because once they are out, there will always be someone who will find them, especially when you know where to look. That is why Jesus said, "Seek and you will find." After the First World War, they called their soldiers heroes. What for? For expanding an empire that caused all their sickness and disease and is still killing them today also. This headline showed they pummeled the entire country of Iraq, and in 1 year of Obama's reign, they dropped 3 bombs every hour. This is roughly 22,800 bombs to destroy one man. They pummeled schools, hospitals, roads and railways. This is because Freemasons also build countries. That is why science teaches that out of destruction comes new life. Well, why destroy life to create this insane ideology? The truth cannot be denied. Saddam Hussein did not have any weapons of mass destruction, nor did he have any chemical weapons. The British, French and American scientists gave him the formula to make them, but he didn't have them, as Dr. Kelly, who is sadly no longer with us to tell the truth, revealed, and then his life was taken from him mysteriously. The book on Freemasonry teaches that the leader of Britain during the Iraq War was a Freemason, and after executing 1 million innocent victims, the British called their soldiers heroes once again. Freemasons founded science, and before the Second World War, experiments were allowed to be carried out on orphans across Europe, especially Irish orphans, as it was recently revealed. This was allowed to happen while Fianna Fáil were in coalition with Labour, a political party founded in Britain that has always had connections with Freemasons. The British and American people fail to see that they are supporting their executioners, because these two nations brought science to the world, and science creates the foods that is causing all sickness. When they control education, they think they can cover up real events, like the truth about what caused the First World War, and feed you more lies about the Second World War. A panorama program proved their use of military to instigate more trouble. Up to 40 British soldiers were employed to shoot innocent Catholics at night during the height of the Troubles in Northern Ireland in the 1970s. Guerrillas by night, as President Kennedy said. A report by John Stevens, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, discovered that rogue elements within the police and army helped loyalist paramilitaries. The army is controlled by Freemasons, as President Kennedy was warning, and as Stephen Knight's research uncovered. One of the rogue elements was arrested with a gun used by the IRA in his car. When asked where he got it from, he said his commanding officer gave it to him. What was he doing with it? We know he was shooting innocent Catholics with the other gun. People of Ireland, the 2 bombs that went off in 1974 in Dublin in Talbot Street, at one end and then the other end, the narrowest street in Dublin, it was alleged that the British establishment colluded to cause these two bombs. I do communicate with the other realm, the spirit world, and I am being warned to alert you that a terrorist atrocity is once again soon to be caused on your shores. This time, they're going to blame the Muslims, but it will not be the Muslims. They fool the world with words, sayings and slogans, like history repeats itself. So it's history's fault we are sick, diseased and dying again. Who or what is this history? Is it an entity? Is it the provider of knowledge, lies, deceit and corruption? All the evidence shows that history does not repeat itself, but the same people keep repeating history. The Iraq War is a carbon copy of the First World War. The Ukrainian crisis, supported by all Labour and Communist and secularist parties, was a carbon copy of the events in Northern Ireland, now known as Bloody Sunday. We now know the British government aided and supported paramilitaries to escalate the violence. They employed hit squads to shoot innocent Catholics, and it's pretty obvious they shot innocent Protestants also. These people don't care who they kill, just as long as they get what they want. 1 million innocent victims proves that claim. It also verifies the warnings from President Kennedy, one of your own people of Ireland. Listen to your own for a change. The British aided and supported terrorists, and the Americans created and funded terrorists, and the world is still blinded by their bullshit. These people killed innocent Irish and Muslims, and when these people hit back, they get called terrorists, and they call these terrorists radicalized. I do not condone any act of violence. I am just showing you how people are forced to react. How more radicalized can you get when you are programmed to think that you have the right to execute 1 million innocent victims, 250,000 of them children, all because of a rule of law? A law they use to destroy you, and when you are sick and diseased, they give you the right to kill yourself. This law allowed the ancestors of the controllers of the British and American establishment to execute the torchbearer of the truth, and that is why these two nations know nothing of the truth. It is also why Jesus said a lawyer is more impervious to the gates of heaven than a rich man, who he also said it would be easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man into heaven. And now the European Union is controlled by science, money men, and the law. The evidence of all the troubles of Northern Ireland proved the British establishment escalated the troubles in Ireland, and the book by Arthur Ponsonby proves they caused the First World War, and all the evidence prove the Iraq War was all caused because of their lies and their laws. I hope now you can see why Jesus threw their money tables in the air and said, "But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you shut the kingdom of heaven against men, for you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those who would enter to go in." Freemasons are controlled by descendants of the Pharisees, the secret organisation that executed Jesus and denied the world his truth. Jesus was a child of heaven, and he was a torchbearer of the truth. So when you deny people the truth, you shut the kingdom of heaven against them. There are two creators, as the story in the Bible teaches, one of the heavens and the earth, and the other of the apple tree, a so-called tree of knowledge. Knowledge is forever flowing, unceasing and never failing, and there is now two fonts of knowledge, one of lies and the other of truth, the side that Jesus came into the world from. When you open your mind to lies, you allow more lies to flow in. That is why a liar will always lie and a cheat will always cheat, especially when they are being taught that truth and lies are just opinions and are being protected by the law. It seems to me that the world has been denied the opinions of a very brave and courageous man that gave up his life to speak out against their lies and give us all access to our birthright, the truth. Every aspect of history is now once again being totally rewritten by these people under your very eyes, even religious history. This book is about the true history of the Vatican. It is a book of lies, spies, assassination, instigating wars and funding them, and sponsoring royalty. All royalty descend from Adam and Eve. But this book is a new book about the history of the Vatican, written by a Jesuit priest, and it is the complete opposite, and even teaches that war was a way of life. It says that war was a part of the fabric of life. People had to defend themselves, so tournaments, jousts and tilts made sense. Even what I have just shown you proves that all wars are caused because of lies. So is this priest or this book teaching that lies are also a way of life? They wouldn't have been if they didn't execute the truth. When you understand religion, science and the occult, you see all the dots coming together. Jesuit priests and Freemasons have always been closely connected. They even have a similar saying, "Get them while they are young." The British royalty always doctored the Bible, but it gets worse. The owners of the Sun newspaper, the most racist paper in Britain, now control the right for the new edition Bible. The true story is not in the Bible. It has been severely manipulated, and if we allow it to continue, no one will soon know the truth. That is why they are creating slogans like fake news. They create confusion in your mind with the chemicals within you and in the world around you. This book on the recent history of the Vatican shows that they haven't changed their ways. This is about the assassination of Pope John Paul I. And recent headlines also prove that revealed they invested in tobacco, alcohol and weapons. That they also invest in death and destruction. The British and American governments, two other empires, have the same traits, and their lies and their spies led to the Iraq War, and America are now looking to start more trouble. When you go looking for something in life, you will always find it. Here is a plot the Russians discovered over 50 years ago, but the world failed to listen to them. Political aims of the American imperialists are to enslave economically and politically the European and other capitalist countries, and to achieve world domination by means of an aggressive war. American banks caused the worldwide recession. Then their businesses bought up all European business and brought their businesses to Europe and never paid any tax. It is no secret that American business controls American government, and now that is the same for all European governments. This is because American business has a stranglehold because they paid no tax, and now their science controls Europe. This is all because of the bribe-taking and rancid greed of all European governments, as all recent headlines proved. That is why the CIA forced the formation of the European Union, and this organisation also caused the Iraq War. Everything the Russians warned us of happened exactly how they said it would. And everything Kennedy said about these people is unfolding in the world around you, especially in Ireland. The CIA was founded by the Skull and Bones, a secret organisation that the two Bushes were members of. It is no secret anymore of all the experiments carried out by the CIA on the mind, and they know that you can control the organism with chemicals, vibrations or HAARP and visual effects, And you are all made up of trillions of individual organisms. They are alive like you. That's what creates life. That is why their chemicals destroy it. Sugar is the oldest mind-altering chemical, and now they have aspartame and MSG and many others. It is no secret that they released LSD into the unsuspecting public, and this led to promiscuity and homosexuality, and they called it free love. And now science has created a drug called cannibal. This drug made a man eat the face off another homeless person. They will say ordinary people, not scientists, created this drug, but historical facts prove otherwise, because cannibalism has followed them throughout all their empires. In the 13th century, after the Crusades, a time when the West made a grave mistake in rescuing them from imprisonment, Isaac the Blind brought their experiments, and lupus and cannibalism appeared in the West. They also said that homosexuality and cannibalism were freaks of human nature. They are freaks of science. Chemicals caused cannibalism. Alcohol caused people to murder. So therefore, they do know how to induce homosexual tendencies. And that is hallucinogenic drugs. MSG is a food-based derivative of LSD. The only way to stop lies, sickness and disease, war, hatred and revenge is to stop science. This book teaches that they experimented on unsuspecting homeless people with uranium and plutonium, that they eventually used as silent killers. That is what all their chemicals in your food now are. But your useless, good-for-nothing, money-worshipping governments allow it to happen because of their own selfish, rancid greed. Worse to come, because they want to employ a secret police force to carry out more experiments on you and to control you more instead of protecting you and telling you the truth. This is what they are trying to implement in Ireland. And Kennedy, he said that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. What is your current Taoiseach planning when he wants to create a spy network that causes trouble and then blames everyone else? And why did he promote a judge to the highest court? We have followed Jesus for over 2,000 years, and he came to lead us back to a time of peace, love, harmony, health and happiness. And now the Vatican and the American establishment want to remove him from your mind. That is what secularism will do. Out of mind, out of life. And trust me, that will be a fatal mistake for hundreds of millions, if not a couple of billion of the world's people. The British Empire brought nothing but hatred, war and revenge, sickness and disease and famine, as the last 1,000 years of Irish history will prove. And when the Muslims attempted to save us, they refused us their help. These people have a habit for speaking for others and calling other people terrorists. The Bible warns us, Jesus warned us, Nostradamus warned us, Kennedy warned us, the Russians warned us, the Muslims warned us, and recently Bradley Manning warned us, Snowden warned us, and Assange warned us. How many more warnings does the world need? It is why Jesus said, Matthew chapter 16 verse 2, when it is evening you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning it will be storm today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the sign of the times. An evil, adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign shall be given to it, except the sign of Jonah. That time is now upon us. Jonah was a liar, and their lies caused death to our world. They caused the First World War, the Second World War, and the catalyst for the Third World War, the Iraq War, and they want to instigate it further. All these operations were funded by the Vatican because this one group of people brought religion, science, money and the rule of law to our world, Eastern and Western, and destroyed them both. That is why all those institutions they set up lie. If Jesus never rebelled, we would have been destroyed millennia ago. If the Muslims never rose up against them and imprisoned them, we would have been destroyed centuries ago. If our Irish ancestors never rose up against them, we would have been destroyed centuries ago also. Now they have secreted themselves in every government across our globe, even this entire Irish one, as President Kennedy, one of us, warned.
Without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy.
I will always rise up to seek truth and justice, while there's air in my lungs and blood in my veins, as my guide on earth once did for all of us. I will also rebel against a system that lies, cheats, and causes racism in societies, as I witnessed growing up in London, and war, hatred, revenge, sickness and disease and famine across our globe. They have committed every evil on earth, and that includes the Vatican, and they are soon to commit the highest evil by defiling the minds of every man, woman and child on earth with the blood of the devil once again. They are using snake's venom in their antibacterial drugs. You must all rise up and stop their science. The truth is all around you, but you fail to see it. They are now using demonic symbolism all around you, even in children's books. This book is a children's version of the book of Revelations, only the end of this book is the complete opposite. It tricks the child to befriend the two-headed beast, Satan, in the Bible. These people have always worshipped and honoured the devil, as the Old Testament teaches. They're Kabbalists, the demonic worshipping cult of the Hebrew, the esoteric science of the rabbi. They worshipped the crucified serpent, and now science honours the cosmic serpent.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations.
In his book, Brave New World, Aldo Huxley shows an uncanny resemblance to what I've been teaching you throughout. Originally published in 1932, the book foretells of Aldo Huxley's vision of the future and of a world utterly transformed. Through the most efficient, scientific and psychological engineering, people are genetically designed to be passive and therefore consistently useful to the ruling classes. This is what Jesus was warning the world of all them years ago. It's what the book of Revelations reveals. As early as 1970, Zbigniew Brzezinski predicted in his book, Angels Don't Play This Harp, a more controlled and directed society would gradually appear linked to technology. This society would be dominated by an elite group which impressed voters by allegedly superior scientific know-how. He said this elite group would not hesitate to achieve its political ends by using the latest modern technology for influencing public behaviour and keeping society under closer surveillance and control. The psychological techniques are engineering of consent, and by using the press and media and HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, creating all the negative thoughts and emotions, and fear is their biggest factor. I do receive knowledge from the other side, and they are using HAARP on you. They are controlling your weather systems. Here is what HARP can do. HARP.net. Political strategists are tempted to exploit research on the brain and human behaviour. It is what President Kennedy was teaching. They are using science on you. What do you think MI5 and the CIA were doing? Look at the British and American societies. They are the most race-hatred nations on earth, and they were the sickest. That was only until recently, until the European Union, and now American science controls the European Union, and look what's happening to the European Union. Geophysicist Gordon J.F. MacDonald, a specialist in problems of warfare, says accurately timed artificially executed electronic strokes could lead to a pattern of oscillations that produce relatively high power levels over certain areas of the Earth. In this way, one could develop a system that would seriously impair the brain performance of a very large population in selected regions over an extended period. No matter how deeply disturbing the thought of using the environment to manipulate behaviour for national advantages, to some the technology permitting such use will very probably develop within the next few decades. That time is now upon you, especially for Ireland, and they are using it on you. They are controlling your weather systems, and they are sending subliminal messages to you. I witnessed the subliminal side of this machine being used on the British youth by the Labour Party. This machine was used to disperse youths from hanging around outside a supermarket that sponsors the Labour Party that was selling alcohol cheaper than bottled water. This is the supermarket that was recently discovered to be embroiled in the middle of the meat scandal across Europe. As I said, they put their people in high places to protect them. That is why Labour always changed the rule of law, as they recently did in Britain and Ireland. When questioned what they were doing, they said it was high audio frequency that only teenagers could receive. This is something similar to frequencies that dogs receive when you blow a whistle. This machine can implant thoughts into your mind, and they are doing it through the music. Just because you don't see doesn't mean it isn't there, and just because you don't hear doesn't mean there is no sound or voice.
And I'm going to put up. So this is voices that are in 440 frequency. Now, right. It was Rothschild that patented this. So it keeps everybody on edge. Now, what this is a Gomini meter, and what it is, this is what your voices will sound like. So this is African. You see?
Yeah. So that middle part that's fuzzing up.
This is what sounds are doing to your body. This is what it's doing to the water and the minerals and the salt and everything in your body. Right? It's keeping you on edge. Now, exactly. Now watch. It's not even moving. It's not even moving.
That's mad.
It's called. Now that is in 432. That's the earth tone, and that's a healing tone.
Wow.
So there's proof. That is proof there. I don't know how much more proof people want. Look at this. Right, so you've got African.
And even the music you played as well. Do you remember when you played the music?
Yeah, let's put the music on.
Yeah.
I'll show you what music does. This is proof that they're messing around with this. So, right. That's what 440 frequency is doing to your bodies. Look. That's what it's doing inside our bodies when we hear it. So it keeps you on edge. This is why people dance. This is why babies, when they're first born, can't not move to drums. Because drums have an effect on your body.
That's nuts.
Right? Now, what you're doing is a frequency in 432, which for me...
Quartz is an amplifier of sound, and the pyramids are made of half quartz and sandstone, and so are all churches, and every computer has a quartz chip. This means that HARP can override every computer on Earth, and the fact that this machine can override a human mind is a clear warning to all world leaders with nuclear weapons that it can control all computers, even ones not connected to the internet. That is because every element on Earth does send and receive signals. They know how to pick up the frequency from every element on Earth. Therefore, they can send back signals to that element, and quartz is an element. This is the weapon of mass manipulation that Nostradamus warned the world of, and they are now messing with our weather systems. Your character is the sum of your mental and moral qualities, and these are made up of your thoughts, and thoughts are generated from within, chemically, vibrationally, and visually. This is why Jesus told Mary Magdalene when she asked him, "How do you who sees the visions see them? Is it through the spirit or the soul?" Jesus said neither, it's in between the two, the mind. Your thoughts can be manipulated chemically, vibrationally, and visually, as I have shown you throughout. They use all modes of science against you, and science is not the way of the creator of all the good, the highest intelligent life force throughout the universe. When we take chemicals, they can change our perception on reality. Words, sayings, and slogans are vibrations, especially in music, and visual effects can make you dizzy or confused. So when you have a mass audience, you can manipulate their thoughts. This leaves you in control of the person's mind, which was to be the main message of our Saviour, who also taught people not to listen to them. Our thoughts come from within, and we pray in our own mind, and should not be led by no holy man, pope or priest what to say, because as Jesus also taught, Corinthians chapter 2 verse 11, "For what person knows a man's thoughts except the spirit of the man which is in him? How can you tell by looking at someone what spirit they have in them?"
Gesù è uno spirito. Gesù non è uno spirito. Gesù è una persona, è un uomo.
What does the Pope mean? He has made a very profound statement that Jesus was not a spirit, but a person, an ordinary man. The Pope is an ordinary man, but the story teaches that Jesus was the Son of God and would be born the Son of Man. He is going against the teachings of Jesus, who teaches of the Spirit. The Pope deceives you that Jesus was not a spirit. So whose spirit does the Pope have in him? It seems he is full of the spirit that guided the Peruvian Indians to make hallucinogenic drugs that cause man to kill and sleep with the same sex. The spirit that guided Einstein's initial experiments that led to the creation of the atom bomb, and the one that guided Eve to create the apple tree. The same spirit that guides scientists to create alcohol and tobacco. I have shown you how the mind can be altered by chemicals and words, sayings and slogans that make up their knowledge, religion, science and the rule of law. Your minds have been changed by chemicals and laws, but God's mind has stayed the same. Heaven isn't a nightclub where the rules keep changing when a new management takes over. The Bible teaches that homosexuality is an abomination and that they will not enter the gates of heaven. But the Pope said, when asked about homosexuality, "Who am I to judge?" He is meant to be God's spokesperson on earth, the keeper of the faith, the upholder of the faith. This means he must repeat the words of God. So when you listen to the Pope, you will not be following God. Anyone that doesn't listen to God will not follow him. That is why Jesus said, to follow God, many of you will have to give up your family. If you follow the wrong belief, you follow the wrong guide. The story tells us that Jesus was the Son of God and would be born the Son of Man. If Jesus was an ordinary man, how did he know he would come again? How did he see the future? And who was Einstein communicating with when he said he received his knowledge from outer space? If Jesus was an ordinary man, is he trying to say the devil is God, or an ordinary man also? Is he attempting to change religious history, or open the way for a new religion, as Jesus prophesied? Sadducees denounce spirits, and secularism denounces spirits. And this is what the Pope did. This proves that Jesus was a bit more than just an ordinary man. In life, to follow anyone, you must first think like them, and to think like them, you must listen to them. And nobody has listened to Jesus because the Vatican keeps his words secret, and they speak their own words. That is why the Bible has been continually doctored by the British royalty, descendants of the original children of hell. Jesus taught you how to achieve your salvation. He said it does not come in the external environment, but within the individual state of mind with regard to the environment. He also said to keep the body pure, because the body is your mind. That is how you receive biochemical knowledge from within. So when you change the chemicals within, you change the knowledge that you receive. That is why when you take hallucinogenic drugs, you get thoughts to kill and sleep with the wrong sex. Or when you drink alcohol, you can become aggressive, argumentative, destructive, violent, even kill people also. That is why the British establishment, both sides, who both held homosexual, drug-fueled orgies, tricked their people that homosexuality was okay with slogans like, it's the 21st century, they love each other. And they also tricked their people it was okay to go and massacre 1 million innocent victims because of a rule of law. With their science, religion and the rule of law, one group of people have completely changed your state of mind, and none of you think like God anymore. They have been allowed to defile all your minds with chemicals you were warned not to eat. That is why the world is now on a different path once again, of war, hatred and revenge, and sickness and disease. They are following the children of the devil, as Jesus called them, the children of hell. When you believe that truth and lies are just opinions, you can be tricked to follow the wrong man's truth. And you now know that some of the opinions of Jesus have been kept from you by the Vatican and called secrets. God is kind, compassionate, loving, caring, generous, considerate, thoughtful, protective, understanding, positive, faithful, loyal, courageous, a God of justice and righteousness. This is how we should be if we are followers of God, our Creator. This is the only way we can be, and these are the traits of Jesus. The devil is cunning, devious, envious, jealous, vengeful, angry, full of hatred, bitterness and destruction, greedy, sinful, shameless, manipulative, deceitful, a thief, a cheat, a liar. To commit any of these, you are a follower of the devil. If you do what he does, means you follow him. So when you believe you have the right to execute 1 million innocent victims because of a rule of law, it's pretty obvious who is guiding you. And when you believe that you can keep sugar, the oldest poison on earth, in the foods, even of the very young, baby foods, after witnessing all the diseases it causes, and then you raise your salaries by 5,000 euros, it's pretty obvious who is guiding you. People of Ireland, you are following the wrong leaders.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. There is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy.